sometimes in life it feels like we always have to do everything ourselves because the people around us just do not seem to be reliable or trustworthy enough to carry out the kinds of actions that they are claiming that they're capable of. And they want to be around you because when you are somebody that is actually on point, when you are somebody that you have your flaws, sure, but you're ambitious and you're striving for more constantly. You're content with where you are, but you're not necessarily satisfied with that. And it's not necessarily the fact that you are not satisfied with what you have. Again, you are content with that, but you know that while you are on this earth, you have an unlimited horizon of opportunity which lays before you. And that's why there's always going to be somebody trying to stress you out. Somebody right now is trying to stress you out. I believe with all my heart that there's going to be somebody always. There's always going to be haters. There's always going to be naysayers. And honestly, at this point, my mindset is give me that stress. Give me that adrenaline. Give me the risk. Because at this point, I'm ready to take it on. It's so incredible to watch yourself level up in real time. And it seems like the evolution of how fast you can level up when you get to a certain point on this spiritual journey is so profound that you don't even understand the natural quality of how you can manifest certain things or you can summon certain things into your life. And these people that are going to try to stress you out, you have to pay them no attention. You have to pay them no attention or take what they say. You know, if they're criticizing you, there's nothing wrong with critiquing somebody necessarily, not criticizing, but there's a difference between a critique and an insult. You know, people will try to critique you and try to really blatantly say what you're doing wrong, and you know that's this or this is that. What you're doing is it's not really conducive to what you're trying to do because of X and Y. You know, that's something that I welcome all the time. I welcome critiques. But what I don't really welcome is insults or ad hominems to my character, because there's nothing there's nothing of utility that's going to be involved with that. It's just somebody projecting at that point. And that's when you know that it's a projection, is because when the insult has no merit. And I don't really respect a lot of people's opinions enough to really hold weight anyway at this point, because I've got so many different kinds of emails and messages and all of that from people over the last few years of, well, 2.5 almost now of doing YouTube and being on social media, really putting myself out there. And I've seen a lot of different kinds of things. And, you know, there's always a point where you feel like you've seen it all. And then somebody just goes to another length and you're like, wow, zers. But it's not really surprising to you. It's it can be disappointing to see the kinds of perceptions that people have because of what you're trying to do. Like, you're actually trying to bring something better into the world. You're trying to leave the world better than where you found it. And you're not going to tickle people's ears. People don't like when you don't tickle their ears. And I was just talking with somebody in the Regal Change Academy about this, where they are going through this phase in their life where they're realizing that being authentic is something that is going to scare away certain people. And that happens because when you're actually authentic with somebody, when you're actually being who you are, people don't always know how to handle that. People don't always know how to take it, because people are so used to others wearing a mask that when you don't wear a mask, you actually become more unpredictable. And in that unpredictability is a sense of fear, and a fear of loss, and a fear of lack of control. Because a lot of people, they want to be able to control or manipulate the situation. And so all of a sudden, when you aren't easily manipulated, oh boy, here come the waterworks. I mean, it's, like, people hate and despise people like us that refuse to be manipulated and that refuse to bow down to these entitled leaders that aren't even real leaders. They're just people that are trying to coerce people into a certain mode of being and a certain way of life that isn't actually in regard to the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. They're just these arbitrary and artificial ways of being. And that's another thing people will try to stress you out with is artificial scarcity. They'll try to inflate people like their own value artificially. And this is what you see oftentimes in dating right now. People, it might be your spouse that is trying to cause you stress at this point. People that are intentionally trying to stress you out for no reason. You know what was crazy was I was doing some research through Instagram on relationships, and I wanted to see, what is the collective mindset on marriage right now? Like, what exactly is the theme of marriage in this collective consciousness of Instagram? And there were several different kinds of videos where they had like a POV, so a point of view, when you try to talk to your husband about not spending money, or when your husband confronts you about not spending money and you actually spent money, and you gaslight him because you're too embarrassed to admit that you couldn't have self-discipline. And then there's another one where it was like when you're trying to communicate how you're irritated, and when he asks you what's wrong, you just start yelling at him, ha ha ha. And it's like, these sound like abusive they sound like abusive relationships of marriage. Oh my gosh. And I don't want to be a part of that. It's crazy how one of my most popular videos that I've ever created on YouTube was called Nearly All Married Men Tell Me Not to Get Married. And at the time I made that video, I still wanted to, I still, it was almost a year ago now, and I still wanted to get married. I still wanted to have a family, even though I understood, like, I didn't want to get a legal marriage, but I still wanted to have a family. I still wanted to do this. But now, if this is the kind of collective consciousness around relationships, that means that you're going to have to be lucky. But guess what? The good news is that you only have to be lucky once. And so if you're in a stressful relationship, whether it's with your spouse or whether it's with your job and whatnot, you can either do one of two things. You can take it on and use it as fuel to drive your dreams home and to fulfill your purpose, or you just need to get out of there and do something else. Now, for me, myself, the path that I would recommend unto you all is dependent upon your situation. There's no one size fits all when it comes to how to handle stress. Some people, they will work through stress by going to work out. And some people will work through stress by overeating. That was the kind of behavior that I used to do whenever I was stressed out. I used to be 200 pounds at one point. And so I know what it's like to have to, number one, have to try to figure out how to lose the weight. And number two, how to discipline myself to not go to food every time I'm stressed out. Well, so what do I do now personally for when I'm stressed out? I start to create. I create something. I am always creating. I'm always looking to create something new. And I look to the pain within me sometimes, not always the pain, but it's going to be a lot of joy as well. I look to the pain and the joy inside of me to understand how to express this. How do I express this now? How do I express the feelings and emotions? And so oftentimes I'll either do some kind of form of painting or drawing or music. The guitar, it's interesting because the guitar is a modality for me at this point for when I'm dealing with dark emotions or romantic emotions. Those seem to be the two kinds of emotions that really draw me to the guitar. Whereas with drawing or with painting or with writing, it's more about like this existential feeling and this feeling that there's a like the weight of the world on my shoulders, and it's just me against the world. Like it's me against the world, and I'm standing here and fighting. But and it's a very empowering feeling. But with the guitar, the emotions that I feel and the way that I express those are better through the guitar for like these dark emotions of anger and sadness and loss and grief. Like those are the kinds of emotions. So you got to learn how to express those emotions. At least that's what I recommend to everybody, because if you can create something through those emotions and turn it into something beautiful, then that means that the pain doesn't have to linger over you anymore. The pain doesn't have to control your behavior anymore. And that's an encouraging and empowering thought. So be sure to understand how you can be the person that you're meant to be by learning how to properly express your emotions, especially when somebody's trying to stress you out. When somebody's trying to stress you out, the best thing that you can possibly do is to do one of those two things, as I mentioned earlier, is learn how to take it and express it, or just go away from that person or from that situation. You don't need to be around those kinds of people. You don't need to be around those kinds of things if they're going to cause you that much stress. Because especially if you're going to be around a narcissist, narcissists literally make you physically sick. I remember being around one of my bosses in the past, the distant past, and every time I was around this person, my stomach would almost feel empty. I would feel super a lack of self-esteem around this person, and I didn't know why, because like it wasn't me. I could feel that it wasn't necessarily me. It was more of my empathic feelings with this person. I could feel what they were feeling, and I it was very uncomfortable, and my mind was super loopy, and I couldn't really think straight around this person. And I didn't know how to handle it for a while until I learned how to differentiate my emotions. I coined this term called emotional differentiation. And I coined this term when I was going through the healing process of trauma and narcissistic abuse. And I had to develop this emotional differentiation because I couldn't tell the difference between that person's emotions and my own emotions. And it was very weird because I realized that I had lost myself completely. I didn't have a sense of self. And that was frightening very much, but I didn't know why it was, and I didn't know how to ground myself really. I had a very difficult time with emotions. But these kinds of modalities and these forms of artistic expression really have allowed a vessel in which I can actually express those things, and I can actually learn and I can grow from the creativity process. Because creativity in of itself is a form of discovery. And creativity, because ultimately, if I'm not going to create this kind of stuff, somebody else will. That's the kind of mentality that I think is because it's the source of creation, right? We're all part of the source of creation. Are the lights on, or is the light on? And that's a philosophical question for you to ponder on, because, well, if the light is on, then there's one light, but if the lights are on, then, well, still there's multiple lights but one power source. And we're all connected to this one power source, being God himself, the source of creation. So anyways, this is all going to show that somebody is trying to stress you out, and this is more of I'm not necessarily going to say it's a warning video. It's just more of a cautionary video. Somebody needed this message, so I felt it on my heart, that God put it on my heart to talk about this subject. So I hope this message was useful and insightful for you. If you are looking for a godly community of warm, inviting, feminine, empathetic women, or godlike savages for the men, then join the Regal Change Academy. We do have the free Discord channel as well as the paid community. And in the paid community right now, we're doing the Legends of Stoicism class series that'll only be available for a limited time. We also have other classes that you can do on your own time at any time, which are the Entrepreneurial Minds, Nexus Attraction, Godlike Savage Workshop, Meditation, Dream Interpretation. We've got something for everybody in there. And we also have weekly calls. So we have a weekly Regal Assembly call, we have a weekly Maps of the Psyche call, and we have a weekly Bible study as well. And all of that is just $20 a month for the membership, for like the calls and everything. So that's, I mean, the way that I look at it is it's not the end all be all, but it is going to give you basic building blocks for your spiritual journey overall. And the team that we have in there, the group of people that we have been growing like you wouldn't believe. We're going to be lapping people. That's the aim that we're going to be performing here. And we understand that there's a burden of performance on us because we're going to be the leaders, and we're willing to take on that risk. It's like I said at the beginning, give me the stress, give me the risk, give me the adrenaline, because that's where we're going to be able to thrive at this point. We can take that. We got this. We also have the free Discord channel available for anybody that's not quite ready to join the paid community. But we also have in the Discord, we have a meditation guide, fitness guides, etc. So with all that being said, I do appreciate everybody moving from the YouTube platform over to X, Rumble, and Instagram, and Facebook, and all those other platforms. I do appreciate your guys' extra support. And with all that being said, peace be with you all. Until next time.